There you are. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're giving it one more minute while folks log on, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining us today. And Cherie, whenever, let's see, I'll hit share here, and then I can let you get us kicked off.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Now, Sarah, I think you can see who's on today, so we are going to wait for Yisheng. We're going to pass it over to her once we've got a decent group in the session today.
Perfect.
Thank you all for making time today.
Okay, Anishan, you're unmuted.
Yay! Can you hear me okay, or do you need me to put it on my mic?
Nope, sounds great. Thank you. Perfect. So, Cherie, you want to kick us off?
Sure. All right, everybody. So welcome to the March Ambassador Call. Again, thank you for making the time today. We're glad that you can join us. You know, as always, we are here at ShelterBox 365 days a year preparing for the worst day ever. And with that being said, I do want to introduce our guest speaker, Yisheng. She's joining us today. She is going to talk about the Philippines deployment. She's got some pictures to share with us. Following Yisheng, we are going to hear from Dave Nichols, who's going to talk to us about district conference tips. We're going to give some shout outs today, announce the Ambassador of the Month, do some Rotary reminders, and then the chunk of the call, I know that you were all chomping at the bit for the SHE campaign. Briefly cover current deployments and the last call for the Safe Ambassador Field Experience. With that being summarized, I'm going to toss it back over to Yisheng to get started. Thank you for joining us today, Yisheng.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. I really only came for Dave, so I didn't realize I was going to be doing this. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I came for you.
Aw, SRT love. How cute is that? I am so happy to be here. One of the things I love to do when I get home from deployments is find a place to share it. So I was just about to book an event at my Interact Club, my local Interact Club, and then I saw this message pop up. So thanks so much for having me. This is a great photo to kick off with, actually, because it's one of the things I'll be talking about today. And I might as well just start with it because I don't really have any good photos of this going on. We were on a deployment that was very special to me for a couple of reasons. The first one I'll talk about is the fact that it was a combination standard responsive deployment where we're deploying aid, but it was also a deployment in which we got to do a little bit of monitoring and evaluation. Those of you who have heard me speak before know that monitoring and evaluation is very close to my heart. And the reason is because we are one of the very few agencies that, yeah, I'm just going to say it, that cares enough to go back and really find out whether or not our aid is doing the best it can by families that we distribute it to. And, you know, we do this in order to be able to improve consistently. Our shelter kits came out of this. A lot of the operational decisions we make come out of this, like pre-positioning. So it's one of the ways in which we're constantly calibrating. The photo you see here is, of course, the all-star, all-female team of response team members. Kate Opie to my, what is that? I was never very good at left and right. Kate Opie to my right, and then Amy Crisp and Ursula Geisler, who was on her first deployment out of Canada. I was very lucky. I got to see Ursula through her 4 days, so I'm thrilled to have been on her first deployment as well. Behind us, however, are the most important people. This is the group of students from Love Classroom in the senior high school at Lope de Vega. They were one of 3 senior high school classrooms who are all studying communications, who worked really hard to help deploy our post-distribution monitoring surveys, which take up to an hour apiece. The students walked around to families in the local barangays with us, that is the local villages or neighborhoods. They sat with the families, and worked really hard to get to know our software, which is called Kobo. You will hear more about that in future deployments, I'm sure. And they not only got to know our software, but they also, of course, got to know our survey as well as some of the ways that we operate. And most importantly, they got to know the families in these barangay. So, you know, we can't do this work without them, and it's one of the things I wanted to share with you today. Go ahead and forward to the next slide. Great. Okay. The next photo here on our Yep. Thank you. The next photo here on the left are two people I want to introduce you to. On the left there is Rose Marie, who is our community manager in the Philippines, and on the right is Marlu, who is the operations head there at ShelterBox Philippines. The ShelterBox Philippines office is our first ever operations office that is remote. Of course, we built it because we deploy to the Philippines more often than we do any other country, a couple times a year at least. Having these two there, oh, you guys, I can't even enumerate to you how important it is to have such a local contact there. Not only is the aid on the right side of the customs fence, which means we can deploy to families who need it more quickly than ever, but it also is critical because we then have a local contact that can help us to liaise with groups like the local Rotary clubs, as well as with the family members. When we do things like mass trainings, which I'll show you in a little bit, it is so great to have somebody there who speaks both English and the local language fluently, as well as one of the many dialects that exist in the Philippine Islands, and to be able to have these people to translate what we need, as well as interpret for these families, and people who are so familiar with the ShelterBox edict, just means that we can move more quickly and more agilely than we ever have before. One of the biggest sort of time sucks that we have is kind of getting people on board and ensuring that they understand what the ShelterBox mission is. As you're all well aware, it is unique, and it comes with a whole set of baggage that is wonderful, but it does come with baggage that we need to explain to people. So having people who are already on board with that saves a lot of time. Of course, there on the right, you see the local Rotarians. This is the Rotary Club of Greater Kaboyog. I have been told that they are attending the Taipei Rotary International meeting that's coming up in 2 years, I want to say, because it's Hamburg this year, and then Hawaii, and then Taiwan. So if you guys are there, you'll get to meet them. But they are lovely people. You see Willie and Ligaya and Joe, and I think that's Jessica over on the left there, but on the right. But they were amazing people, and they helped us out a lot. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so I really wanted to set up these photos because I wanted to show you guys what a mass distribution looks like. Essentially, this is ideal when it comes to distributing things like shelter kits. Obviously, we kind of have two ideals, right? When it comes to setting up tents and setting up shelters, we obviously like to be at the family's home site, but this is one of those situations where we were distributing a bunch of things and we needed it to be really in line with the local government units' standards of record keeping, as well as our own standards of record keeping. So what we did was we asked all the families to come to this warehouse, which was an open covered court, which was being overseen by the Philippine military. They were lovely. They worked really hard to help us out and to ensure that everything was ship-shape. And indeed, you see the families there learning about how to use the kit, but also being able to walk out with their kit right there. And then some of them were able to lean on some of the local government units resources, as well as some of the military resources to help get their kit home. At this distribution, we passed out solar lights as well as blankets. We passed out water carriers, and we passed out the totem boxes, which have been really useful for the families. Now, before we go to the next slide, I just want to tell you guys really briefly some of the things that we've heard about the kit that we distributed. Families told us in these half an hour to hour-long interviews that we conducted with them that they were using the totem boxes to store their valuable goods, like their tax papers and their pay stubs. These are items that they never had any place to store before, right? So now when bad things happen and when things are rained out, they can be sure that their valuables will not get too wet. They can pack everything up in this box and they can take it away with them when they evacuate, which is not something they had before. Before, they were using plastic sacks that were torn up and that would rip very, very easily. So a lot of their papers and their photographs, the birth certificates were lost to rain and flooding. A lot of their most valuable items, like their church clothes and their children's blankets, were also torn up. Oh, we also gave out mosquito nets, you guys. Sorry about that. So this is one of those examples where we're providing things that are really useful. I want to say a brief word about the solar lights as well. Those of you who tuned into the Luminade call that I did earlier may have heard the story, or maybe not. No, you wouldn't have heard it. So I'm giving you guys an exclusive here, okay? In the Philippines, one of the key ways of making money is to farm coconuts. And one of the stages of that is what they call roasting copra, which is where they kind of smoke the coconut meat so that it becomes dry, and then they sell it to big companies who then press it to make coconut oil. The copra stage can be quite dangerous. A lot of times, of course, there's open flame involved because there are smoking embers. Families who didn't have sources of electric lighting would not be able to work through the night and be able to look after their copra production. But because of the illuminated lights or because of the solar lights, they were able to work through the night, which means we were able to give them a bigger leg up than before. On top of that, some families were previously using dangerous kerosene lamps, which in addition cost money, or open flame. Now, of course, because they have the solar lights, they're able to do that. One final story about the solar lights. They were also, there are lots of villages out there that never had electricity, but villagers now feel like the entire village has electricity due to the fact that they now have solar lights. So this is a really good win for us in terms of being able to provide people with equipment that they will use on a regular basis. Okay. Do I have any other slides, you guys, or is that it? Oh my goodness, I do have one more slide. Okay, I love this photo. A lot of times we talk about our deployments changing and about the way that we do things changing. One way that it will never change at ShelterBox is that we really do go to whatever limits we need to go in order to get these families these aids. Of course, I listed the items that we passed out. The item that I didn't list, of course, that we did pass out that was of huge help was the shelter kits. This here, we're actually on one of our first trips into the field to visit the families to see how they're doing with their shelter kits and whether or not they've directed them properly. Of course, the waters were high. It rains every afternoon nearly in the Philippines, and we had to ford a stream, which was a little bit of a problem, except for the fact that we were able to walk across a boat that was set up for us and have it be done there. This is one of those situations in which ops may ask whether or not we have any life jackets, and we say, yeah, it wasn't that kind of water. Okay, so that's my last slide, and I think we'll probably wait until the end to field any questions, right, guys?
Yep, if anyone has any questions now, please feel free to type them in the chat box to the right, and we can catch Shem while she's still on with us. And then if you did miss the video on our Facebook page, you can see posted a great interview that she did with the team at Luminate on Friday in honor of International Women's Day. So thanks, Shem, for your time today and also for Friday as well.
My pleasure.
And we have no questions so far, but that doesn't mean there won't be any. So if we do get some that trickle in during the call, I'll let you know.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll be here. I'm waiting.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ishan. And I also invited Dave Nichols to join us today. He is partnering up with Ned Morris, getting ready for district conference. I know they've also worked with Peggy Carlaw. And I just invited him on to speak about what he does as an experienced ambassador at SRT to prepare for district conference. So Dave, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. So this is a picture of me with the district governor from 5080, which is Ned's district, and this was 2 years ago. She actually was so excited about ShelterBox that she spent several afternoons with Ned and I, or I'm sorry, with Eric and I, looking at the tent. And her goal for her year was to get every club to donate to ShelterBox, 58 clubs. And I believe she almost did it. So a really exciting way to get to them is at Pets. When you start looking at district conferences, you have a little bit more face time with the members of the clubs that come than you do at Pets. There's a little bit more drinking and less studying, actually. So it's really important to start early. Ned and I were lucky enough to be able to corner both of our district governors together at the international convention last year, because we're having a dual conference. Both of our clubs are doing a conference together. And they were really excited about us coming to do presentations. So Ned and I went away from that. We wrote a proposal and offered all sorts of things we could do, from us doing presentations to tents to having other speakers. And we sent it to them, and then it was crickets. So I think the lesson here that we learned, and some of you already know this, is it's really not the district governors. You want their buy-in, but they're not really running anything. So Ned and I have done a lot of scrambling around in order to get to the planners for the conference. And we've had some frustrations because our district conference is 2 conferences. There are 2 of everything. So there are 2 planners. And there's 2 people who are doing setup for the rooms, which is different than the planner. So we've had to kind of go back and forth over email and actually just went back to our district governors and said, come on, we need some help, some guidance through this. So it really is important to start early. Give them lots of options. Think of all the ways you can have FaceTime, whether it's at our joint district conference. Ned is sponsoring a wine pour one afternoon on the deck. It'll be summertime by then. So we're going to pour wine, ShelterBox wine. We're going to do a presentation. Make sure you get as much, again, FaceTime. Can you flip your slide so I make sure I hit all your points, Sheree? So make sure you secure space, because remember, the tent, you need someplace to put it up that's safe. We ran into a problem with the outdoor space for the tent, and I'm still not sure if we got indoor space. Ask for breakout sessions. Ask for time to do awards. We're really pushing the heroes in all the clubs I know, so you really need to figure out some way to do the awards. And so with that, I want to talk a minute about Peggy, who Ned and I are going out to do presentations for her in May at her conference at Coos Bay. Peggy has done a bang-up job. She has actually gotten Ned and I 3 hours of presentation time, 2 1.5-hour blocks of time. So that's an amazing thing. Peggy, you want to add anything if she's on?
Yes, one second here, Dave, and I can unmute Peggy. Let's see. Peggy, can you hear us okay? I think you just may be muted on your end still.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, so starting early is good. I started in December. Kieran Walsh, who's an ambassador in Eugene, has over the time built a good relationship with our district governor, and I think that's really key. So Kieran's got us set up so that the big tent is going to be put up, and everybody has to walk through it to get to registration. And then once everybody's registered, we'll take that down and put the small tent in the House of Friendship. I started talking to the Youth Services Chair back probably around December, and so we've got a breakout session for Rotaract and Interact with Dave and Ned on high stakes leadership. And then I've also got him with a pre-conference, an hour and 45 minutes, talking about how Rotary and ShelterBox are going to work together in the field. So it's a pre-conference, so I'm going to send some information out to all the clubs that already have expressed interest to make sure that they can get somebody there. So Louis Turpin's my hero in the world of hero, and he and Bill Tobin gave me some good points. So I got to the district awards committee, and our governor this year's cut awards back, but what they're going to do is they're going to put us in a rotating PowerPoint presentation during the session. So, you know, you got to start someplace. And then I'm going to hand out certificates in this, the breakout that they're doing. Let's see, what else? Money. So somebody's got to pay for all this. So I just went ahead and asked the conference chairs, and Youth Services is going to pick up one hotel night, and the Rotary people will pick up another hotel night. And so, you know, I think we've got it pretty well covered. And it's just a matter of asking, and the worst that could happen is that they say we can't do this. And again, I think that the key is the relationship with the district governor. So that's kind of an overview.
Awesome. Thank you, Peggy. Dave, any final thoughts?
Nope. Open to questions or exchanging ideas. I mean, obviously, this is the district conferences are changing how they think about them. Every year is somebody different, as you guys know. So any ideas, pass them around, you know, Facebook or however we can, give people ideas, and just go do as much as you can. Reach for all you can. Thanks, Sheree.
Thank you both. I appreciate you being on. And now is the time, everybody. You know, I have obtained district giving report up there, but ask me about that district giving information so you can be prepared for recognition. Sarah, we are ready to move on to shout outs.
Sheree, we had a question. What is a district giving report?
Oh, that's a great question. So I can run a report for any time frame for your district that shows any donations within that time frame. It goes down to the club. You'll see the club or the district gifts, Interact or Rotaract. If they've engaged with us in that time frame, they're going to appear on this report and how much they gave. If we do the last 3 years, this is a really good way to look at low-hanging fruit and potential hero club prospects, as well as a way to know how you're recognizing these clubs. Are they regular givers? Are they just new to giving to ShelterBox? And is there opportunity to get them to give more? What also comes on this report are individual gifts, but I do keep those anonymous because we can't share that information. We could talk offline a little bit more about that, but you're able to see all the gifts that come in through the district for the time that you need. And these are great tools to get you ready for district conferences, for pets, and club giving. Just planning your Rotary year and your attack plan to engage the district of who's most given, who maybe has never given. They won't show up on the report, so you'll know maybe you need to knock on their door and ask for a presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Sheree.
Of course. All right, this is my favorite time where I get to celebrate all of you. So on the screen, we have our top 10 fundraisers. I want to thank Laura Helmer, Bill Woodard, Jim Carrier, Greg Krauska, John Keene, Jack Young, Peggy and Malcolm Carla, Mary Gordon, and Janine Mural, Nancy Dodge for their efforts in raising funds for ShelterBox to forward our mission. We had 460 hours reported for time spent dedicated to ShelterBox, and our team raised over $67,000 to forward our mission. So our work, we can't say it enough, our work would not be possible without you. Thank you. And if you missed the Oscars call, you weren't able to jump on or you weren't able to catch the recording yet, here are our winners. So congratulations again. Our all-around award was given to Jim Carrier. Our relationship rock star, Laura Helmer. Service Above Self Award, Wayne Childs. Youth Engagement Award, Peggy Carla. Beyond the Box, Yi Sheng. Rising Star Award, Frank. The ShelterBox Team Award was awarded to the Colorado team this year. The team is led by David Adder. ShelterBox Couple of the Year, Jack and Nancy Fadigan. And our Ambassadors of the Year were named Holly Anderson and Eric Elsey. Thank you, winners. Thank you for all you do, and I look forward to seeing who our 2020 winners are going to be. Moving on to our shout outs, though, I want to give a special shout out again to those that helped put on the Good Earth Home Show. It was a success, and Kieran Walsh forwarded this right up to me. You may have seen it on Facebook already, but this appeared in his District 5110 weekly bulletin. You can see Bill Woodard pictured there, Greg Beck and Kieran Walsh. These are a team of volunteers who do this every year, and this event raises over $24,000. So we're so grateful for the time, energy, and planning that goes into making this event a super success. And I believe we have Greg and Kieran on, Sarah. I don't know if they're able to come off mute at all before we click forward.
I don't think so, Sheree, so let's just press on. Thanks.
Moving on, the rest of our shout outs, we're going to do a pets themed shout outs theme today. Our ambassadors, all of you all, you're taking your time and you're setting up the tents and the tables at Pets. So here we have Keith Einstein, Judy Hutcherson represented at the Lone Star Pets. Other ShelterBoxers present that day were Raquel Junkel and David Shirley. Thank you. At Southwest Pets, we had Parker Emerson and Eric Shala. So thank you both for being at Southwest Pets. Bill Vayu and Oscar Sada led the team at Midwest Pets. And I'm loving all the pictures that came in. Thank you, team. I didn't have any pictures from High Country Pets, but thank you, David Adder, Shauna Stecker, Kathleen Piers, and Liz Anderson for representing. Over at the Pacific Northwest Pets, we have this table here. We have Laura Helmer, Dave Hall. We have Mike Robinson. And I'm not sure who else I'm missing there. But we had a great representation at the Pacific Northwest Pets. Thank you all. At Mid-Atlantic Pets, we had Bill Taszynski and Henry Turr. Thank you very much. And at Peach State Pets, we had Frank Spears and Mike Freeman. Thank you for representing ShelterBox. And I didn't have any pictures from Chesapeake Pets, but I want to thank Holly Graff, Wayne Childs, and Steve Wagenseal. And Far West Pets, a lot of pictures from Far West Pets this last weekend. Big thank you to our volunteer team, Bob Durer, Jim Carrier, Stephen Leese, and Rob Lowe. And we had staff representation with Bill Tobin. Thank you all for being there. And Andre, he represented ShelterBox as a solo ambassador for Florida Pets. So he is an AG who was going in between sessions and tabling. So thank you. Fran Jeffries and Steve Savron were representing at Northeast Pets. Thank you so much.
And Tree, we've just gotten in a message. Glenn Harris was the fourth mystery man.
Glenn Harris, thank you.
We've not yet met face to face, but yes.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for correcting me and making sure we gave that shout out. It was well due. Jack Young represented at All Ohio Pets. And we had the dream team over here, Tom and Marie Grant with Kelly Wake at the Tri-State Jewel Pets. Thank you all, it looked great. Now these were the pictures and those that I know that went and gave up their weekend and set up, but there are so many more of you that are going and setting up at your own local pets. And I want to thank you all for dedicating your time and your weekend to sharing ShelterBox with the Rotary leaders. I know we have some more upcoming, so in advance, I want to thank some volunteers, Mary Sloan, Jeff Lichty, Greg Krauska, Nancy and Jack Fadigan, Louis Turpin, Wes Clanton, Frank Bells, and Don Utz. I know that they have already committed, but make sure everybody send me pictures. Don't forget to send in your activity reports because this is your time that you're dedicating to ShelterBox, and I want to make sure that I'm recognizing you for that.
Yeah, and Sheree, I thought it was exciting to see all the best practices we talked about on these calls being put into use during so many of those pictures with really creative and engaging booths. And I know that our volunteers had great conversations with Rotarians in their district and also Rotarian leadership as well. So thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for that. I appreciate that. And I can't agree more. You guys do an amazing job. Without further ado, I do want to announce our Ambassador of the Month. I don't know if he could be on today, but Andre Goyanes, he has been focused and determined to lead and grow the Central Florida ShelterBox team, and it is admirable. He's an assistant governor, as I mentioned, and he has been killing two birds with one stone by recruiting new Rotarians and new ambassadors at the same time. I mentioned he was a solo ambassador at Florida Pets, and before the weekend ended, he had recruited new team members, secured presentations, and given away all his brochures, all the while going to sessions himself. So we are very grateful for your time, energy, passion, and creativity in sharing ShelterBox. Andre, thank you so much for being a part of our team.
And yeah, Sheree, Andre's not on today, but his area lead, Frank, is. So I know Frank will bring back the good message.
Awesome, thank you. And now I'm going to pass it over to Bill Tobin, who's going to share Rotary thoughts with you today.
Bill, you should be unmuted. Can you hear us okay? We can't yet hear you. Sorry, Bill. It looks like you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. So I know what you were going to talk about, and I'm happy to go through it. And then, Bill, if you are able to get off mute, let me know, and you can hop on in. So essentially, we talked about this a bit last time, but we do have a new toolkit that Bill's been hard at work on and the rest of our team here. Essentially, we wanted there to be one central location where Rotary clubs and Rotarians and districts could go to find information about ShelterBox that they could just take and put into use within their district. So let's say, for example, we have a club who learns about ShelterBox during the convention, but then in going back to their community, they might not have a ShelterBox ambassador nearby. And so we wanted to give clubs like that resources and ideas to be able to fundraise for us, to learn more about the partnership, to get ideas and inspiration, and then also to download important resources that they could use. So we have everything contained within this toolkit, from articles that can be added to district newsletters, to videos that can be downloaded and shown during a meeting, to also great ideas and speaker request form and things like that. Bill, can you hear me now? Or can you talk?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. There you go.
Oh, great. Sorry about that. When I put my laptop into docking mode, somehow it forgot that there was a microphone. Anyways, yeah, great job on the toolkit. That is a big place for ambassadors, obviously, in addition to the ambassador portal, but also this is a spot where anybody could go. It's a little bit behind the scenes now. There's not a button on the main page to get to the action toolkit. We're still doing a little refining to it. There's a SurveyMonkey questionnaire that was sent out to all the ambassadors for some feedback. But right now, let the folks know /action toolkit, all one word, and they could access this from anywhere. So the toolkit's really cool, and it's always going to be changing with new content. The other thing I want to touch on is Rotary District Assembly. Now that most of the pets are done, those are where the incoming presidents learn. The district conferences, as Dave pointed out, that's where the rank and file members, if you get a chance to even just put a tent up at a district conference, you're going to reach people who have heard about us but have never seen the tent. So that's a great spot to get down to the rank and file membership of Rotary clubs. And then the district training assemblies are where the incoming class of leaders from each club, whether it's membership chairs or foundation chairs or what have you, all go to learn. And sometimes they will open it up to organizations to talk about themselves, such as ShelterBox. Other times they may just be doing classes on like public speaking or fundraising ideas or public relations. And I encourage all ambassadors, if you have the opportunity, to offer your services to lead classes like public speaking, because we do a lot of that. We certainly do more than most of the rank and file members and future leaders that attend district training assemblies. And you could share your approach on public speaking and then use the examples of ShelterBox to highlight your approach. So it's kind of a roundabout way of getting ShelterBox into a district assembly, even though we may not have a direct route in. But also those are spots, they're usually held in, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are held in like high schools and stuff. So there's always an opportunity, or most likely an opportunity, to put a tent up. So again, it's a place where, like Peggy said so eloquently earlier, the worst they could say is no. So another avenue where we might be able to get out in front of the Rotary audience. And I am just blown away by all the great photos and stories I've heard so far from pets. District governors are excited about the district challenge. I know Dave, his district governor, kind of did a district challenge on her own a couple of years ago, and they were so close to getting every club to donate. I am 100% hopeful, and I 100% believe possible that we will get a district in the United States this year where every single club of that district makes a significant donation, and that's significant to me means helping at least one family. And so if we can get every club in America to do that over the course of the next few years through district challenges, we will lead the way towards reaching that 1 million people a year goal that the ShelterBox wants to be able to help here in the next, where are we down to, 6 years. So that's all I have, Cherie and Sarah, and everybody, once again, great job in February, and let's have a real fun March.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bill. So once again, yeah, if you go to shelterboxusa.org/action toolkit, you can access all those great resources that Bill mentioned. And again, if you do have feedback or additional ideas, let us know. We'd be happy to make any additions or changes to the site. And then as Bill mentioned too, it's a work in progress, and we'll continue to add new resources. I know we have a goal about adding more around activities that can be done for Rotaract and Interact clubs, and also Youth Exchange. So we'll be continuing to add in the coming months, and we'll let you know as we make those additions. So wanted to set some time aside today to share an example of a PowerPoint that you can share in your community around the ShelterBox She campaign. And many of you likely saw a lot of activity on social media on Friday, and that was because that day marked International Women's Day, which is a global celebration of women, but also a call for equality across the globe. And so ShelterBox launched what we called the She campaign for ShelterBox on that day, but we intended to run it through Mother's Day, which is May 12th, just to be able to really highlight some gender inequality that exists after disaster, and also to highlight the important role that women play in community recovery, because so many of our responses do involve strong women who are helping to rebuild their communities and to support their families in these trying times. And so we wanted to share with you this presentation that will be uploaded to the portal later today, and it's one that you can take to your communities. And I would challenge you to think outside beyond just our traditional Rotary audiences, and if there are women's groups in your areas or professional organizations that are targeted towards women, it's a good way to introduce our message to some other audiences in a way that might resonate with them. So looking at some of the statistics that are true after disaster, we know that currently 75% of all of those people who are displaced globally are women and children. And so disasters tend to strike women in a more significant way. We also know that from particular studies, women and children are up to 14 times more likely to die during natural disasters than men. We've seen specific examples of that. As an example, after the Indian Ocean tsunami, that massive tsunami that hit in 2004 in Thailand and in the surrounding nations, 4 times as many women were killed than men, and it was because culturally men were taught to swim and to climb trees when they were younger, whereas women were not. We've seen other examples of this in different countries. There have been times when earthquakes killed many women because they were working inside the home, whereas the men were out in the field, and so the buildings collapsed on them. So there are a number of different factors that contribute to these statistics, but they're still very much the case. We also know that 60% of the preventable maternal mortality deaths take place in settings of conflict or other displacement. So again, these are deaths that can absolutely be prevented, but that become more exacerbated during a disaster. We also know that in the aftermath of disaster, all forms of violence against women increase. And so again, this is something that as a global community, we want to make sure that we're focused on and that we're working to change. So I wanted to share with you a story about one of those women that we've been able to help. This is Yazida, and she was just 18 years old when she became a widow. There you can see her with her 2-year-old daughter, but soldiers came into her community and murdered many of the men, including her husband. And so she was forced to flee from her home in Myanmar to Bangladesh. She was a Rohingya refugee, and she's just one of the many families that ShelterBox has aided, providing her and others like her with hope that the worst is over. So sort of drilling into some of these different statistics after disaster, as we mentioned, women and children are particularly affected. We know that humanitarian crises, whether caused by natural disaster or conflict, hurt women and girls the most. And that women and children account for more than 75% of the refugees globally. But we also know that together we can change this. We know too that women are more likely to die during a natural disaster than men, but we also know that together we can change this. We know that adolescent girls in conflict zones are more likely to be out of school, 90% more likely when you compare them to other conflict-free countries. During droughts, as an example, which I know is a natural disaster, also girls are more likely to miss school as they're needed to collect water and care for family members, and oftentimes they're having to travel further than they normally would, which prevents them from attending their classes. But again, we know that if we work together, we can change this. Together, we can break down barriers that face women after disaster. Together, we can provide women with essential supplies and with training to enable them to rebuild their lives and their communities. Some of the ways we do this is by the aid that we distribute. ShelterBox tents help women feel more safe and more secure. They provide privacy and help women to maintain their dignity. They provide a workspace for women to start to rebuild their businesses. Our shelter kits help women to keep their independence and to rebuild their homes for their families. These homes keep them safer and enable them to start to rebuild their life. The solar lights that we distribute help women to feel safer in the darkness of night, and they also give them a way that they can study in the evenings as darkness falls, and so that they can be able to continue their education. And then our school kits allow students to study and to regain normalcy when their lives have been turned upside down. A children's school pack contains drawing books, crayons, math sets, and other supplies. For children who have lost most, if not all, of their possessions, these small gifts are treasured. We also provide training in the field to help families understand how to use the equipment they have received. These community members will then go on to train other members of their community. And there's Ishan there working on community training in addition to the monitoring and evaluation that she shared with us earlier today. One of the things that's really important is that we involve women in community recovery. When women are able to access relief supplies, sanitation facilities, and livelihood support, they can really help with the rebuilding of a community. Women's skills and perspectives are critical to building safer and more resilient societies. After the upheaval of a disaster, traditional gender roles often change and institutions can be rebuilt to be more open to women. And so we make sure that we involve women in our planning and in the community response. Together, we can involve women in recovery. At ShelterBox, we prioritize the most vulnerable families and communities and empower them to rebuild and to restart. By providing women and families with immediate emergency aid, we can help them recover faster, rebuilding their homes, caring for their families, and resuming their livelihoods. Together, we can help families return to normal by providing women with the tools and training they need. Together, we can empower women after disaster. At this point, I wanted to share some of the strong women who we've helped to rebuild. Here you can see she is Fatnazar. And before the earthquake and 20-foot tsunami that swept away her village in Indonesia, Fatnazar was a seamstress. Working out of her home, she had been in business for 2 years. When the tsunami waves crashed onto their shores, Fatnazar lost her home as well as her business. Her family was forced to relocate, and along with 120 other families, they moved to a field across from a school. Her family had to share space under one large tarp with 15 other families. There wasn't a lot of space, and there was no privacy in this newly formed community. Along with 150 families, ShelterBox was able to provide Fatnazar aid. They provided a family with a tent, mosquito nets, water filters, and carriers. And now with her ShelterBox tent, Fatnazar has had the opportunity to get back to work. Under the awning of the tent, she can be seen smiling, sewing, and resuming her livelihood. The tent not only provided a more private and secure space for her family, but it's also allowed Fatnazar to return to a normal life and to begin working again. Here you'll meet Mesa. She and her family were forced to flee their home due to conflict in Syria and are now living in a refugee camp in Iraq. She said, "The Islamic State took our family home. They came one day and gave us 15 minutes to take all of our belongings and leave. The most important thing for me that I took were my certificates, my ID, and my family pictures, but that wasn't enough. We needed a roof and we needed things to live." Excuse me. She said, I had previously worked as a seamstress from my home, creating custom clothing for special orders. She's now the owner of a shoe store in Iraq. She opened a shoe shop in the camp after her husband fell ill, and she suddenly became the family's sole breadwinner. Borrowing $3,000 to set up her shop, she paid for the stock in installments. It has become one of the most profitable businesses in the camp in Iraq, allowing Mesa to prepare her family and shelter for Iraq's freezing winters. She shared, "I'm proud and feel somewhat satisfied that we no longer need to receive aid and that I can support my family." We also wanted you to meet Zara. Zara is one of the women that we served, and after a flurry of attacks on her village, Zara feared not just for her life, but for the lives of her 8 children. Zara and her husband had a difficult decision to make. She said, "The thought of leaving everything we have in the village and leaving our relatives behind, and the fear of not knowing if I could reach a safe space without being hurt or kidnapped or even killed was difficult." The family made a life-saving choice to leave their life behind and journey by foot to a camp. After traveling for 3 days, the family reached the camp with no belongings and nowhere to stay. Zara and her children were forced to sleep outside without shelter. Under the sun and in the rain with no protection from the elements, Zara feared the threats posed to her children from sleeping out in the open. The family was provided an emergency kit, allowing Zara to provide safe shelter for her family. The new shelter has helped Zara and her family feel safe, providing them a space to keep their belongings and protection from the weather. She said, "It has made my life so much easier." So here, with these incredible stories of the resilience and strength that the families we work with have shown throughout the world, we'd like to ask you to join us today and to help shelter her. There are so many ways that people can get involved in supporting our organization, whether it's making a direct donation, fundraising on our behalf, becoming a ShelterBox volunteer, or even an advocate to help us spread the word. We'd love to invite you to join us and to be a part of the ShelterBox team and to make a difference for women across the world. So just to wrap that up, we're happy to answer any questions anybody might have. You're welcome to type them into the chat box there, and we will have the presentation uploaded onto the SharePoint later, or excuse me, onto the Ambassador portal later today, and we'll make sure we put a notification on the Facebook page as well. So just looping back to sort of our normal call content, we wanted to just share our most recent deployment map. Here you can see where the organization is currently operating. There haven't been huge changes since we met a month ago, but this updated map is available on the Ambassador portal if you'd like to add it to your presentations. Cherie does a great job of updating it regularly so that it's easy to just grab and add to a presentation. We continue to work in Ethiopia, where conflict has displaced families, in Somaliland, where families are fleeing drought. We're also continuing our work in the Lake Chad Basin of Africa, where families have been fleeing Boko Haram violence. Our work in the conflict areas of Syria and also Iraq continue as we support refugees and internally displaced persons there. And then also we've been operating in the Philippines, which Ishan gave us a great update on earlier. I'll also mention there are some new images on the asset bank, especially from the Philippines and from Cameroon most recently. And so again, if you're just looking for some update slides to supplement into your presentations, those are available now as well. Also, as just a quick reminder, if you visit shelterboxusa.org/news, that's the best place to go to some up-to-date information on our various responses. We also have every Tuesday morning Facebook Live updates that are on the ShelterBox.org Facebook page, but that we also share on our closed ambassador group as well. So again, if you're giving a presentation and just need a quick 10-minute summary of where we're operating in the world, that's a great place to go to be able to access the most up-to-date information. Cherie, I know we've got the ShelterBox Ambassador Field Experience coming up soon. Would you like to give us a quick update on what we can look forward to in Texas?
Absolutely. This is the last call. I invite you, if you haven't already registered, please sign up. It is a life-changing experience as an ambassador. You will go and come back with a whole new perspective and training we just can't offer any other way. So please put it on your to-do list to register. If not this year, please put it on your list for next year. We only have a few more spots, so be sure to get your registration in. We have the last day to register is this Friday, March 15th. Last day to register with a few more spots open. So if you can, make it happen.
Plus, it's lots of fun.
Yes, lots of fun. Thank you. And so, yes, this Friday is the absolute deadline. So if you can please let us know before then if you'd like to be involved. We would very much appreciate it so that we can just get all of our ducks in a row and flights booked and all that good stuff. Wanted at this point then to just thank everybody and to open it up one more time and see if there are any questions or success stories you'd like to share or items that we didn't get to during the call that could help serve you in your role as an ambassador. And you can either type a question into the chat box or there's a little hand that you can raise as part of the system as well. So we do have a couple minutes left if anyone has any questions or comments, compliments.
Well, Sarah, really quick before whoa, lost my ability to talk there. Before we pass it over to them and give them a chance to type things in, I just wanted to say I have seen a lot of pictures with Mark Maloney, who is Rotary International's incoming president. He's president-elect, and he has been pet topping. And I just want to thank this group again, because where he has been, we have been there and visible. And that's because of all of you. So thank you for helping to put ShelterBox in the forefront of his mind. That's all from me.
Awesome. Thank you, Cherie. And I don't see any more questions, so I can give you all 10 minutes of your day back. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. Thank you to our special guests today, especially to Dave and Ishan, and also Bill and Cherie for all your sharing as well. And if you do have questions or need resources, please holler and we'd love to help. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.